How's it going, everybody? It's Warren. Welcome back to my channel, The Cosmic Wonder, where we talk about all things relating to Marvel and, of course, the MCU. And today we have some really exciting reports to break down. Reports involving Spider-Man, 2099 Spider-Man, and Daredevil, specifically Charlie Cox's Daredevil. Reports that these two could possibly be coming to two separate shows, but both of which could be linked to the MCU. We know that Disney and Marvel Studios are getting the rights back to Charlie Cox's Daredevil from the Netflix series from Netflix. According to Marvel's contract with Netflix, they're getting the character rights back at the end of the year. However, there have been reports that they may have actually already gotten the rights back to Daredevil. And originally, everybody thought when they heard this news that, oh, they're getting the rights back because they want to use him in Spider-Man 3. They want Matt Murdock to be Peter's lawyer. And Charlie Cox has actually commented on this news. So lots of very important things in regards to the future of the MCU with these reports, and we'll break it all down. If you're new, be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on the MCU, and I'm also giving away a Iron Man Funko Pop figure this week as well. Just subscribe, like the video, and leave a comment down below to enter. So yesterday on Star Wars Day, May the 4th, Mikey Sutton, who is known in the community for dropping several leaks, dropped a couple of Marvel scoops. One about a new Daredevil show and one about a new Spider-Man 2099 show. And yesterday, to his group, Geekosity on Facebook, Mikey posted the following scoop. For 3 seasons on Netflix, Daredevil busted through seedy hallways and shed blood in the gutters. It was among the MCU's most critically acclaimed and popular TV series, echoing the streetwise grit and Catholic subtext of Frank Miller's iconic take on the character. With the creation of Disney Plus and the removal of the Marvel programs on Netflix, its future has been the subject of speculation and rumor. Last year, in September, Mikey reported that Daredevil will return to television in its true adult nature. And now, recently, Mikey was given an update, one that will excite fans who have been desiring a closer connection with this and the theatrical MCU. Mikey says that although legally they can't work on the series right now at the moment, talks continue on what will be done. And fortunately for us, he's heard a little bit of information. And he says that, first of all, they're leaning on bringing the series to Hulu instead of FX. The budget will be higher, but not on the level of what they're doing for Disney Plus. They would also like some of the rougher-edged MCU characters to possibly guest on the show, like Nick Fury, for instance. But there's another difference. While Kevin Feige liked the original series, he's not so keen on continuing what Netflix did and instead incorporate his own vision. However, his preference is to retain Charlie Cox as Daredevil and some of the other cast as well. As of right now, no negotiations have begun yet because they simply aren't allowed to legally. What we're looking at is a possible soft reboot, one that is firmly set in the MCU. If Ryan Reynolds can play 2 different versions of Deadpool, so can Cox and Daredevil. The multiverse can explain that away if need be. However, there are no plans for Daredevil to join the Avengers. Instead, what has been brought up is the possibility of Daredevil joining forces with Moon Knight, the Punisher, and Ghost Rider, among others, in the Midnight Suns. And the Midnight Suns and Ghost Rider have been rumored a lot recently. But that's Mikey's report on Daredevil, and that should be pretty exciting to fans, as fans have really wanted a bigger connection between Daredevil and the MCU. As it was before with the Netflix shows, and even with Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., they connected to the MCU, however, the MCU didn't really connect to them. The events and storylines that happened in the MCU affected what happened in these shows, however, any event that happened in the shows did not affect the MCU. And this is where fans were kind of disappointed that their characters weren't truly in the MCU, and Kevin Feige, the president of Marvel Studios himself, basically came out and said, yeah, they're pretty much not related to the MCU. But one thing that you absolutely have to keep in mind is that at the time when all of these shows were going on, Kevin Feige, the president of Marvel Studios, was not in charge of the television shows. However, since then, he has been named Chief Creative Officer CCO over Marvel in its entirety. That means that he is now in charge over Marvel Studios, he is now in charge over Marvel Comics, and now in charge over all television shows. And that includes any Disney Plus show and any Hulu and FX show. So it's a completely different game and ballpark now. Kevin Feige can link all of the characters in any show that he wants to the MCU, and he's already stated that every single Marvel Disney Plus show that comes out, with the exception of What If, is going to take place inside of the MCU, and you're going to have to watch the Disney Plus Marvel shows in order to keep up with the films. And it sounds like, based off of Mikey's report, that if they do decide to do a Daredevil Hulu show, it's going to connect to the MCU. And they're going to keep Charlie Cox, which again is something that everybody wants because everybody wants Charlie Cox to return. But now let's talk about the new SpiderMan 2099 news. This again comes from Mikey Sutton to his group on Facebook Geekosity. And this report is short and sweet. The report says that a SpiderMan 2099 live action show has been discussed for Disney+. In other words, this will be a Sony Marvel Studios collaboration if it is greenlit, with Kevin Feige manning the controls. And that is all that's been discussed so far, so keep in mind that they're simply just discussing this right now. There's no guarantee that a SpiderMan 2099 Disney Plus show will be made. However, there is a great precedence for this show to be made, as it follows what Disney is currently trying to do and will fit with what the MCU is moving forward with very well. For starters, if this is indeed happening and Marvel Studios is considering making a Spider-Man Disney Plus show, that means of course they're going to have to cooperate with Sony. And this is a great sign that Marvel and Sony are playing well with each other. Something that people have been very worried about since the whole Spider-Man in the MCU scare that we had last summer. But the fact that Marvel and Sony are talking with each other, that means that Spider-Man should be in the MCU for a pretty long time. In fact, there have been reports of other Marvel and Sony related projects coming to Disney Plus. Gina Price Bythewood, who was previously signed on to direct Sony's Silver and Black film featuring Silver Sable and Black Cat before it was scrapped, recently revealed that Disney Plus was an option for them for the project. In an interview with The Hollywood Reporter when talking about the scrap project, she said, "Now, there's a thought of, hey, maybe we put it on Disney Plus as a limited series. But I loved it more as a film with the two of them, so my hope is that one day it can still happen." So here we have somebody who was set to direct a Sony and Marvel Studios project that was together, saying that it was a possibility that they could have taken their project and turned it into a Disney Plus show. So that's great news because that means that Sony and Marvel are playing well with each other, very, very well. Which again is great news for Spider-Man sticking around at the MCU. And Spider-Man 2099 story would actually kind of fit with the direction that Marvel is heading. Now, the Spider-Man of 2099, year 2099, is Miguel OHara, and he's from both Irish and Mexican descent. And as some of you may know, Marvel is trying to be pretty diverse right now with adding characters to the MCU who are of different ethnicities. So Spider-Man 2099 is right along their alley. So in Spider-Man 2099, Miguel OHara worked for the Alchemax Corporation and was tasked with imprinting genetic codes into human physiology. But after seeing many of his test subjects turn into monsters, he tried to quit. However, his boss used an hallucinogenic drug called Rapture that bonds the user to its DNA and got him hooked on it. He then told him that he'd have to continue to work for the corporation for him to get his fix, as they were the only company who made that drug. So in order to get rid of his addiction to the drug, he used the previous genetic experiment on himself. However, the experiment was sabotaged, and what ended up happening was that O'Hara's DNA was spliced with a spider, and he subsequently gained a number of superpowers and removed his addiction to the drug. His old boss, Tyler Stone, finds out about his new superpowers and sends agents to hunt him down. So in order to conceal his identity while he fights all of these agents, Miguel dons a bodysuit with a mask that he once wore for the Mexican Day of the Dead festival, and that's where his Spider-Man outfit comes from. He eventually goes on and decides to embrace the character and dons himself the new Spider-Man. But here's where his story could fit in the MCU with the current way they're going. Miguel finds out that a scientist named Jordan Boone at his old company Alchemax is conducting what they call virtual unreality experiments to create a doorway into another dimension. Now eventually this would go on to become successful, and even at one point in time, Peter Parker from the past ends up switching places with Miguel from 2099. And this is something that could definitely come into play if you consider that the multiverse is now going to be a huge part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Since the multiverse is now a part of the MCU, really anything that you could possibly think of is probably possible. So having a timeline that is set in 2099 and having 2099 Spider-Man would be very doable for a Disney Plus series because of the multiverse. But let me know what you all think about this. Would you like to have a Spider-Man 2099 Disney Plus show, and would you like to have a Daredevil show with Charlie Cox returning as Matt Murdock? Let me know what you think about this new report of these two new Marvel shows that could be coming. Don't forget to comment below and like this video and subscribe with notifications turned on to stay up to date on all things relating to Marvel and the MCU. For live updates, you can follow me on Twitter, and as always, thank you all so much for watching. Woof woof.